It was supposed to be just another ride, nothing more. A fare, a destination, a few polite words. But that night, everything changed. Grace adjusted the mirror of her old yellow cab, her hands steady despite the rain tapping against the windshield. She had been driving for 12 hours straight. Another Friday night in New York. Tired faces, noisy streets, endless meters ticking. Yet something in the air felt different. She didn't know it yet, but the next passenger would turn her world upside down. She parked near Fifth Avenue, the engine humming low. Her phone buzzed. New request, Michael. Pick up in 2 minutes. Let's go, she whispered to herself, pressing accept. The door opened, and a tall man in a grey suit slid into the back seat. His watch alone was worth more than her car. He smelled like success and loneliness. Grace smiled through the rearview mirror. Good evening. Where to? He looked up briefly. Riverside Hotel, please. His voice was calm, practiced. The voice of someone used to being obeyed. She nodded, starting the engine. Riverside it is. At first, silence filled the car, just the rhythm of rain and city noise. Then she noticed his reflection. Eyes lost, shoulders heavy. Not the posture of a man going home, but of someone running away. Rough day? She asked gently. He hesitated. You could say that. Lost something I thought I'd never lose. A person? He gave a faint smile. Something like that. Grace didn't press. She knew the tone of regret. It had lived in her cab for years. Passengers confessing to strangers because strangers don't judge. Traffic stopped near Times Square. The lights reflected in her tired eyes. You know, she said softly, people don't lose what's real. They just learn who's willing to stay. Michael looked up, startled. He wasn't expecting wisdom from a taxi driver, but something in her voice hit him where pride couldn't. You sound like someone who stayed. I did, she said, turning left. For too long. The silence after that wasn't awkward. It was heavy, full of understanding between two broken souls hiding behind routine. When they reached the hotel, Michael didn't get out immediately. He leaned forward. You remind me of someone, he said. Someone I used to believe in. Grace laughed softly. Maybe it's time you believe again. He paid double, left quietly, but the next day, he booked her cab again and again. At first it was coincidence, then habit. Every morning she'd see the name Michael H. appear on her screen. Same pickup point, different destination. Sometimes the office, sometimes nowhere in particular. They started talking about small things, coffee brands, favorite diners, her mother's illness, his company falling apart. Grace told him she once dreamed of opening a small cafe, a place where tired people could rest without being judged. Sounds like heaven, he said, staring out the window. Weeks turned into months. She didn't know that Michael was a millionaire who had lost everything and everyone after his fiancée, a model named Olivia, left him for his business partner. He was driving around to escape the silence of his penthouse, and she didn't know he'd stopped booking other rides altogether, only hers. One night near Christmas, the city was glowing red and gold. Michael got into the cab holding 2 cups of coffee. Thought I'd return the favor, he said, handing her one. Grace smiled. You remembered how I take it. Black, no sugar, like life. That night, the air between them felt different, familiar, dangerous. He asked, Grace, what's the hardest thing you've ever had to forgive? She gripped the steering wheel. Myself, for thinking love was supposed to save me. The words hung between them. Michael watched her profile illuminated by streetlights, realizing that this woman, this stranger, had seen more of him in 10 rides than anyone in years. Days later, he stopped showing up. His name vanished from the app. For a week, Grace waited, then 2. Until one morning she saw him, on the news. Michael Harrison, former CEO of Harrison Holdings, declared bankrupt. Her heart sank. She didn't know why it hurt, but it did. She searched his name, found an address, and without thinking, drove there. The building was empty, except for him, sitting on the steps with a small box in his hands. Grace? His voice was softer now. You disappeared, she said. So did my life, he replied. Turns out I wasn't as untouchable as I thought. She stepped closer. Maybe that's a good thing. He laughed, the kind of laugh that breaks. I don't even have money to pay for this ride. Then it's free, she said. Call it a second chance. That was the first night he rode shotgun instead of the back seat. They didn't talk much, just drove, past the bridge, through the lights, nowhere in particular. Little by little, he started helping her, fixing the car, buying groceries, repainting her apartment. And she helped him, teaching him to live without titles, to breathe without pressure. One evening, while cleaning the glove compartment, Grace found a velvet box. Inside, a ring. Is this for someone? She asked. It was, he said. Now I don't know. She looked at him for a long moment. Then keep it. Maybe one day it'll mean something new. By spring, Grace's mother passed away. Michael was there, not saying much, just holding her hand at the hospital. When the funeral ended, she leaned her head on his shoulder. You know what's funny, she said. I drove you around the city thinking you were lost. Turns out, we were both just finding the same road. Months passed. They never called it love, but it lived quietly in gestures, in coffee cups left warm, in shared silence at red lights. Then came the night everything changed again. Michael received an offer to rebuild his company, investors from abroad. He asked her to come with him to start a new life. She looked out the window, the city reflecting in her eyes. You don't need a driver anymore, Michael. You need to learn to drive again. And you? He asked. What do you need? She smiled. To finally park. He kissed her forehead. No promises, no rings, just understanding. Weeks later, Grace opened a small cafe near the pier, the second ride. The first customer was Michael. He didn't say a word, just left a note under the coffee cup. It was never just a ride. It was the road home. She smiled, watching him walk away under the same city lights where it all began. Because sometimes love doesn't arrive in grand gestures or expensive cars, but in a shared silence between two people who finally found peace behind the wheel.